Once upon a time, there was a king who ruled over a vast and peaceful kingdom. He had 7 sons, but he and the queen wished for a daughter to complete their family. One morning, their wish came true. A beautiful baby princess was born. Joy filled the palace, and the king and queen celebrated a grand party. The princes were very happy to have a little sister. They loved her very much and took care of her with all their hearts. As the years passed, the princess grew into a beautiful young girl, and her brothers became handsome young princes. They were kind-hearted and loved helping the poor. The people of the kingdom loved their kindness. They prayed for their long life and happiness. The 7 princes were very good at archery. They were also the best horse riders. They impressed everyone with their skills. The princess loved watching her brothers ride their beautiful horses and hit the target with flawless accuracy. One day, the princess rode in her beautiful horse cart with all her brothers on their horses. As they passed through the village, a poor man stepped forward, his eyes full of tears.
"Princess,"
he said, his voice trembling.
"I took a loan against my land to buy seeds, but the crops failed. I couldn't repay the loan, and now the rich man has taken my land. I have nothing left to feed my family. Please help us."
The princess' heart was filled with sympathy, and tears gently rolled down her cheeks. All the princes became sad, their hearts aching for the man. The elder prince, Tom, rode his horse forward. He said kindly,
"Don't worry. We will help you."
Then the prince turned to the royal guards and ordered,
"Provide him with everything he needs, and make sure he is taken care of."
The poor man, with tears in his eyes, said,
"Thank you so much. I will never forget your kindness."
Then he bowed and left. The chief minister was always busy plotting to become king. The king knew of his plans. Prince Tom and others advised the king to remove him. Louis warned,
"He could become more dangerous anytime."
The king replied,
"I will not act until I have proof. My detectives keep an eye on him."
One day, the princess went to watch a big archery competition. All the princes and expert archers were there, aiming to hit the target. Each prince took his turn, hitting 2 targets perfectly. The tension was high. One by one, each prince shot his third arrow. But the third one missed. The crowd murmured in disappointment. Now, it was Louis's turn, the youngest prince. His heart raced as he aimed carefully at the target. The princess whispered to herself,
Louis, you can do this.
The whole crowd held their breath as Louis released the arrow, and it soared through the air. For a moment, everything felt still. Then, the arrow hit the mark. The crowd shouted in amazement. The princess' eyes filled with tears of joy.
He has done it!
She cried out and jumped to her feet. Her brothers stood frozen for a moment, then rushed to congratulate him.
Well done, Louis!
The elder prince exclaimed. Louis had won, and the crowd cheered loudly. One day, the princess traveled through the capital in her beautiful horse cart. Her face covered with a white net. A giant saw her and instantly fell in love. He wanted to marry her. He turned into an old saint and sat in her path. The princess saw him and stepped down. She asked,
Saint, please tell me, who is my groom?
The old saint smiled and replied,
A man will come to your palace.
She blushed and left. The giant whispered to himself,
I will come to take you.
One day, the king, queen, and princes were dining, when a servant bowed and said,
Your Majesty, a saint wants to meet you.
The king nodded.
Send him in.
Moments later, the giant, disguised as a saint, entered. The princess exclaimed,
O saint! You!
The giant smiled.
Yes. I have come to take you.
Before anyone could react, he recited secret words, turning the king, queen, and princes into dwarfs. The princess screamed in fear and fainted. The giant took her in his arms, whispered,
My love.
and carried her away. The king and queen shouted for help, and all the princes ran after them. But they were too late. Louis thought,
I should hide some gold, because now the minister will get a chance to throw us from the palace.
He quickly hid some gold and jewels in his clothes. The giant took the princess to his castle. When she regained consciousness, she yelled.
Why did you bring me here?
The giant smiled softly.
I will marry you.
She cried.
Leave me! I want to go!
Afterward, the giant left. When the minister got to know that they had become dwarfs, he seized the palace, imprisoned the king and queen, and threw the rest out. Tom shouted,
Adam! Louis, everyone! Run to the forest quickly! Otherwise, we will be crushed under the feet of the people.
They all ran toward the forest. After reaching the forest, they sat under the trees, taking deep breaths. Louis said,
We will find the princess soon.
The next day, a royal chef arrived after searching for them. He asked,
What can I do for you?
Louis handed him a gold coin, saying,
Please bring us groceries and pots. We need your help.
The chef replied,
Yes. Your Majesty. I will help you secretly.
The following day, he brought everything, and they started living in the forest. One day, a goat appeared in front of Prince Adam. He froze in fear, afraid it would crush him. Louis threw a stone, hitting the goat. The goat cried and ran away. One day, a maid brought a beautiful bridal dress and jewelry for the princess, making her the bride. She looked lovely. The giant's servant brought a priest for the wedding. The giant smiled as the priest began. The priest asked,
Do you take this woman as your wife?
The giant replied,
I do.
The priest then turned to the princess.
Do you take this man as your husband?
The princess, scared, refused.
No. I won't.
The priest said,
This marriage cannot happen without her agreement.
The giant grew angry and demanded,
Declare my marriage.
When the priest refused, the giant put him in prison. One day, Louis went deep into the forest. Tom said,
Don't go too far. Any animal could crush you.
Louis replied,
Don't worry. I will take care.
In the forest, Louis found a saint deep in meditation. He quietly returned and told his brothers.
I found a saint. He can help us break the magic spell and get the princess back.
The brothers agreed and went to the saint. When the saint opened his eyes, he saw 7 dwarfs standing before him.
What brings you here?
he asked. Tom explained everything and begged.
Please help us.
The saint smiled.
I can help you.
He said. He whistled, and a golden bird appeared.
This bird will guide you.
The saint said. He handed them a vial of magic water.
This will help you break the spell.
With the help of the golden bird, they went to the giant's castle. When they reached the castle gate, Lewis poured the magical water on the door, and slowly it opened. Lewis and his brothers quietly entered the giant's castle. When they reached the princess's room, they found her sitting by the window, looking out sadly.
Princess,
Whispered Lewis.
we are here to take you home.
The princess looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. The brothers quickly helped the princess to her feet and hurried her out of the room. Lewis poured the magical water on the door, where the priest was locked, and he was freed. Together, they returned back to the palace, where they poured magic water on king and queen and each other. And they began to return to their original form. The giant, seeing his power fade, vanished and was never seen again. The minister was arrested and thrown into the dungeon. Moral: goodness always wins in the end.